Breaking news, Diane Keaton, 79, dead. The death of Diane Keaton on October 11, 2025, shocked Hollywood and the globe. At 79, the actress who played Annie Hall and The Godfather died. The final revelations about her 15-year Hollywood romance with Al Pacino were more shocking than her death. Before dying, Diane Keaton talked about her years with Pacino and their terrible separation. Even though Diane supported him financially and professionally, he never married her. Diane disclosed long-hidden secrets, simmering tensions, and years of grief and despair. This seemingly dreamy romance's bitterest truths? Learn all the stunning details in today's video. Diane Keaton entered a Harlem casting party in 1971, nervous and excited. A young, unknown actress, she played Kay Adams in The Godfather, a movie neither she nor Francis Ford Coppola expected to succeed. There, she met Al Pacino, a man with soul-piercing eyes, a boyish, attractive grin, and a husky voice that seemed to speak the universe's secrets. Diane discreetly watched him from across the room, her heart racing. She felt he was a bright maniac, a lost child in an adult's body who gesticulated wildly while narrating passionate stories. Al, then 31, struggled to keep playing Michael Corleone, the part that changed his life. Their chemistry started before the cameras rolled. Diane, bashful, guarded her sentiments like a diamond in an old wooden box, making the Godfather days seem like a dream. Diane and Al exchanged glances and chatted between takes. After long days, they drank at a modest Manhattan pub and laughed to escape the burden of the film's potential failure. "Diane, what happens if this movie fails?" Al asked with a playful voice and serious eyes. Diane grinned silently. Inside her, a fire was starting. She adored how he spoke endlessly, lived for his work, and made her feel special even with a jest. Yet that love was simply a delicate intoxication, not enough to bring them closer. After reconnecting on The Godfather set in 1974, the romance took off. After filming, Al brought Diane to a small restaurant in Manhattan late at night. He gazed at her more softly than ever in dim illumination and crimson wine. "Are you aware of your uniqueness, Diane?" he said, husky voice betraying a big secret. Diane blushed, and her heart raced. They talked about movies, theater, dreams, anxieties, and silly stuff that night. They started dating privately after that. Diane and Al's relationship was not typical Hollywood with dazzling premieres or magazine images, but two artists meeting in life. Instead, they met in simple moments. During evenings in Diane's California apartment, Al talked about his theatrical fantasies on the sofa while Diane smiled. While walking on the beach, they discussed their favorite books and movie ideas. Diane loved Al's free energy and how he worked every part like it was his last. She also felt an intangible disconnect. Al moved like a wind, never staying long enough to belong. The 1980s complicated things. Due to Annie Hall and baby boom, Diane was at her career high. Her family dream got stronger. She wanted a home, kids' laughter, and a committed man. Al, the free-spirited one, appeared helpless. "Being a husband is beyond me," he half-joked, half-seriously when Diane tried to talk about the future. Diane went through painful breakups and passionate reconciliations. Al would suddenly arrive at her door with a bottle of wine and a wicked smile, as if no time had gone. Each time she wondered if he ever loved simply her. Al sent Diane a handwritten letter in 1989 while filming in Rome. Hastily penned on hotel stationery, the words were profound. "Love you forever, Diane." Heart-stopping, she held the letter. It was rare for Al to express his sentiments without jokes or glances. Diane kept the letter, reading it again for hope. Deep inside, she understood Al's forever wasn't a proposal or family. Beautiful, fragile artist love, like an unfinished poetry. Commitment was their biggest issue. Diane, in her 30s, was impatient. She wanted a home and stability that Al couldn't deliver. Marriage discussions generally ended in quiet. "Al, have you considered a life together?" she asked, trembling. Al silently stared at her with pained eyes. Al was rumored to be close to other ladies, but none were proven. Diane fought jealousy to preserve love. However, doubt crept in, cracking her flawless picture of them. Diane persevered with Al. She saw his financial troubles, too. Al bought many automobiles and cell phones, spent hundreds of thousands on landscaping, and hired a fraudster accountant while his $50 million fortune nearly disappeared. Diane remembered his anxiety and strain, reluctant to watch him suffer alone. She secretly loaned Al money to maintain his lifestyle and morale. She lent money and reminded him of his talent to keep acting. In rare instances, Al was grateful. "Diane, you're my only constant." In a modest cafe, he remarked, eyes not evasive for the first time. These experiences convinced Diane that their imperfect love was worth fighting for. Al found balance and continued accepting parts to stabilize financially, including Jack and Jill and commercials, with her help. Diane faced reality during the Godfather Part 3 filming in 1990. She could no longer endure uncertainty. Diane faced Al in her familiar New York apartment one evening. She continued, firm but trembling, "Al, we marry, or this stops." The hush was heavy. Al said nothing, his eyes filled with sadness. Diane knew the answer before he spoke. She left the apartment, abandoning her hope of a family with Al. Diane was heartbroken by the quiet separation. Walking into the frigid night, she thought, "I love him, but I can't wait forever." Later, Diane and Al were nearly strangers. They avoided each other at Godfather gatherings, as if each presence brought up bitter memories. Diane spotted Al with his youthful smile from afar at a premiere, and her heart broke. They once drank together to forget tensions and feared the film would ruin their careers, but now they were ghosts. Diane never hated Al. She kept Rome's letter and read it on lonely nights, delighting when his name appeared in interviews. She reminded herself he was the love of a chapter, trying to go on. In the 2000s, Diane Keaton adopted 2 children, Dexter and Duke, and built a modest, loving family without marrying after Al Pacino. Keaton said motherhood gave her joy and balance and helped her find parts of herself her work couldn't. Besides Beverly D'Angelo and Lucilla Pollock, Al Pacino had more affairs. Pacino has 4 children: Julie Marie, Anton James, Olivia Rose, and Roman, born in 2023 with his lover Noor Al-Fala at 83. Pacino's renowned and deeply human image comes from his continued exploration and experience of life despite his advanced age. Al Pacino writes extensively on his 15-year romance with Diane Keaton in Sonny Boy. He says his time with Diane was uncommon, as they found rhythm and comfort in each other. Pacino writes, "We established a pace and temperature that seemed perfect," stressing that Diane was his girlfriend and spiritual companion, offering him calm and stability. She took him to lawyers and helped him resolve personal concerns during significant financial crises in the late 1980s, something Pacino always treasured. Keaton preserved a part of her home with Al Pacino memories in her later years. A photograph of him was usually prominent among stacks of books, framed photos, and souvenirs from their time together. Diane would peek at it, occasionally smiling nostalgically. Sometimes her eyes were melancholy. It silently acknowledged a love that never faded, a feeling that influenced her for decades. Diane often thought about their laughing, whispered discussions, and fleeting romantic moments. She said in later interviews that her heart had never forgotten him. Pacino left a permanent impact on her psyche, explaining why she never married or sought another love with the same desire. The world perceived Diane Keaton as bright and independent. She waited in her heart, expecting to love him again. She loved the idea that they might meet again in another life. That quiet, unshakable hope comforted and saddened her till the end. Woody Allen and Diane Keaton had a tumultuous relationship before Al Pacino. Keaton appeared in Allen's 1969 Broadway play Play It Again, Sam, where they met. They fell for each other's ingenuity and unique personalities and had a brief romance. Although their relationship was brief, Keaton inspired Allen to make numerous classic films, including Annie Hall, 1977, which won her the Oscar for Best Actress. Their partnership became a solid friendship and long-term artistic collaboration after their romantic split. Diane Keaton starred in many of Allen's films, creating timeless American cinema. In 2018, Diane Keaton officially supported her pal Woody Allen, saying she trusted him after Dylan Farrow accused him of sexual abuse. The public and creative community were divided by this public defense, especially amid the Me Too movement. Keaton stayed faithful to her old buddy despite social pressure. Who is Diane Keaton and what was her life like? How was her career? Diane Keaton was born January 5, 1946, into a theater family. Her mother, Dorothy Diane Keaton, was crowned Mrs. Highland Park in 1955, and seeing her mother triumphantly on stage when Diane was 9 lit a fire in her ambition. Dorothy wanted to give her daughter everything she never had. Along with lessons and hugs, Diane's 85 notebooks were packed with clippings, images, and memories of her journey. Diane unearthed this treasure mine of memories after Dorothy died in 2008, which inspired her memoir. While watching her mother compete in beauty contests, Diane's youth was formed. Dorothy sought grandeur and vivid storytelling on these platforms, instilling in Diane a love of performance and curiosity about the world. She watched her mother use glamour to tell stories and live passionately from a young age. However, her father, Jack Newton Ignatius Hall, an Irish construction engineer and real estate broker, was calm and responsible. His dying days were fraught with illness due to an inner storm. Jack confided to Diane on the way home from UCLA Medical Center that he disliked his job and wished he had taken more risks. That confession shocked Diane. Not just words, but a lifetime of remorse in one moment. Her father's words inspired Diane's exceptional tenacity. Jack felt confined in numbers and real estate dealings, but Diane found inspiration in his remorse to be creative. Childhood and familial pain inspired her to experiment, take risks with unexpected roles, and develop a profession without permission or compromising her personality. She struggled in 1950s Los Angeles, since her father's business was unsteady and the family was poor. Diane spent her childhood at Goodwill while other girls bought luxurious stuff. Her mother used an ancient McCall sewing machine to create distinctive dresses from used clothes. This taught Diane resilience, resourcefulness, and how to turn scarcity into creativity, as well as her unique dress sense. Every piece of fabric, every stitch, was artful survival. Diane gained the same outlook on life. Diane learned another lesson from frequent relocation and family adjustments. Nothing lasts forever. That instruction helped her act weird, charming, and anxious characters viewers love. Diane learned to appreciate life's memories, challenges, and minor joys, as well as view it from afar. Diane started performing as a child. Her mother taught her acting and storytelling, while her father encouraged independence and daring. By 3, Diane performed for neighbors and staged elaborate dramas and costumes her mother designed in her backyard. These modest plays weren't childish. Real stories with scripts, props, and emotions enacted before she could read. Diane began to shine at Santa Ana High School. In her senior year, she played Blanche Dubois in A Streetcar Named Desire, a role many teens shy away from, and in Little Mary Sunshine, she discovered stage lighting. She was astonished by the thunderous applause and believed that performance was joy and filled an inner void, making her feel alive. While applying to the Actors Equity Association, Diane found that her name was taken. She chose Keaton, her mother's maiden name, to honor the person who inspired her to perform. This was more than a letter change. Diane separated from her father's Irish surname while keeping her mother's legacy, theater, costumes, and dreams. Her name evoked art and creativity. Diane excelled in theater club but didn't like classical beauty or stage attractiveness. She went from tiny and awkward to somewhat overweight. Diane utilized white lipstick, black fishnet tights, and everything else that made her less invisible to fight. Insecurity evolved into style. Walking through Soho years later, Diane saw bold ladies and inspired her famous outfit. Neutral colors, oversized suits, white hats. She dressed to protect, not attract. Ironically, it became Hollywood's most famous style. Diane entered beauty contests like her mother, but discovered they judged appearance, not talent. She gave up, shocking her family, and felt free to rebel in public for the first time. That decision affected her style forever. She should be herself rather than conform. She fell for a high school basketball player who neglected her and insulted her unusual laugh at 17, breaking her heart for the first time. Diane began telling jokes to shield herself because that chuckle, once a hallmark, felt like a curse. Tony Roberts said she makes you feel like a kid again because she never pretends to be anything other than her gloriously weird self. From childhood to Hollywood, Diane converted every heartache and delight into unlimited creativity. After one semester at Santa Ana College, Diane Keaton tried Orange Coast College in 1964. It was never her dream to attend college. In 1968, 22-year-old Diane made her Broadway debut in Hair as a supporting character. The production was known for its rebelliousness and virtually naked moments. Producers required Diane to reduce 10 pounds before performing. She weighed 139 pounds at 5'8" and was too fat for revealing situations. Under pressure, Diane held firm. She defended her stance without being nude. The pressure to look well began to harm Diane's health. Another actress taught her how to puke to stay slim. What sounded like a simple trick became a 5-year nightmare. Diane secretly suffered from an eating issue from 1968 to 1973, vomiting up to 20,000 calories a day, causing dental rot, heartburn, irregular periods, and high blood pressure. Diane suffered alone because no one knew. She slowly recovered after starting daily therapy, and realizing she no longer wanted to eat extreme altered her life. Luckily, Diane's career took off. She auditioned for Woody Allen's Play It Again, Sam in 1968. Diane nearly lost the role because she was 5 inches taller than Allen. Once on stage, it didn't matter. Her brilliance and charisma charmed the casting team. The play opened on February 12, 1969, and ran for over a year with 453 performances. Diane was nominated for a Tony Award in 1969 for her performance of Linda Christie, which led to Broadway and movies. Diane Keaton's professional peak was as Kay Adams Corleone in The Godfather. In the first film, Keaton played Michael Corleone's girlfriend-turned-wife, Kay. She met Al Pacino here and dated him for 15 years. Kay marries Michael and has 2 children in The Godfather Part Demi Quartel, as he descends into criminality. Keaton skillfully depicted Kay's psychological journey from love to disillusionment and determination, giving her depth. By the end of The Godfather Part 3, Kay has divorced and is rebuilding her life, but she still suffers with her past and the Corleone family. Sleeper, released in 1973, was another career turning point for Diane Keaton. The satirical sci-fi film was an unexpected hit. Diane became less serious than Kay Adams from The Godfather with a $2 million budget and $18 million income. As Luna Schlauer, a futuristic eccentric woman, she was funny and unusual. This part showed viewers Diane could act comedy effortlessly and energetically, establishing the groundwork for her later approach. After 4 years, Diane's 1,977 Annie Hall performance made her famous. Diane prompted Woody Allen to write this persona for her. From her moniker Annie to her awkward, natural speech and clothes, the character reflected Diane's personality and produced a cultural phenomenon. Diane became a celebrity on television and off after winning multiple prizes, including the Oscar for Best Actress, and starting a fashion trend with big suits, soft hats, and wide ties. Diane astonished audiences again with Looking for Mr. Goodbar that year. As Teresa Dunn, a double-life teacher, she explored New York's dark nightlife. The film, based on Roseanne Quinn's murder, was startling. This part was the reverse of Annie Hall, yet Diane showed her courage and ability again. Even harsh critics recognized her talent and boldness after her Golden Globe nomination. In 1978's serious Woody Allen picture, Diane played Renata. There was no romance or comedy this time. Sadness, familial secrets, and isolation dominated the film. Diane won over critics with her delicate and compelling emotions. This role won her a Golden Globe nomination and the Spanish Film Academy's Best Foreign Actress Award, proving her versatility from humor to drama. In 1979, Diane featured in Manhattan, a controversial but profitable film. Woody Allen's character's love story with a 17-year-old girl was met with mixed reviews, although the city looked beautiful in black and white with dreamy music. Diane Keaton's death, beyond its shock, calls for a reflection not just on a brilliant career, but on the larger human questions her life represents: love, independence, and the cost of authenticity in a world built on illusion. What moves me most about her story is not the tragedy of an unfulfilled romance, but the quiet dignity with which she accepted imperfection. Diane's life was a rare example of how a woman in Hollywood, a place that often measures worth by beauty, youth, and attachment, can live by her own terms. She was never a prisoner of convention. She chose solitude over a hollow marriage, honesty over compromise, and creativity over conformity. That choice, though painful, was deeply liberating. To me, Diane Keaton's long relationship with Al Pacino is not just a failed love story. It's a mirror of how two extraordinary souls, both consumed by art, can struggle to coexist in ordinary life. They were both mirrors and wounds to each other, reflections of brilliance that could never quite merge. In a sense, their love was a metaphor for artistic passion itself, intense, beautiful, but ultimately untamable. I don't see their separation as tragedy, but as an inevitable divergence between two people destined to create, not to settle. What truly fascinates me is Diane's moral and emotional evolution. She never let heartbreak define her. Instead, she transmuted it into art. Her performances, nuanced, unguarded, deeply human, were her way of translating private sorrow into collective meaning. That, in my view, is the highest purpose of art: to make pain intelligible, even beautiful. Yet her life also exposes the darker truth of the entertainment world, the loneliness that fame disguises. In a culture obsessed with image, she preserved her eccentricity, her laughter, her defiance. That eccentricity, once mocked, became her power. Diane Keaton taught generations of women that aging, independence, and self-possession are not flaws to hide, but triumphs to embody. If there is a lesson to be drawn from her story, it is that fulfillment does not always come in the form society prescribes. Diane's decision to build a family through adoption rather than marriage was not an act of resignation, but of courage. A refusal to let love's absence define her capacity to give. She showed that nurturing, whether of children or of one's inner self, is the truest form of creation. In a world still teaching women to seek completion through others, Diane Keaton reminds us that self-completion is not loneliness, it is mastery. Her life encourages us to embrace imperfection, to live boldly in contradiction, and to understand that love, even when unfinished, can still be profoundly meaningful. If there is a solution her story offers to modern life's emotional disarray, it is this: stop chasing permanence in others and start building peace within yourself. That is the kind of quiet revolution Diane Keaton lived, and it is, in my eyes, her most enduring legacy.